We don't choose our why, it chooses us. It isn't created in a brainstorming session or crafted from ambition. It's discovered through reflection. It lives in the stories we often overlook, the ones from our childhood, our struggles, our triumphs, and our turning points. These moments, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, have one thing in common: they left a lasting emotional imprint on us, and in those moments we felt something real, a sense of injustice. A surge of joy, a deep connection, a moment of clarity, that's where your why begins to take shape. When you start to explore the patterns in your past, you begin to notice that there were always certain moments that made you feel alive, aligned, and true. Maybe it was helping someone in need, maybe it was standing up for something when no one else would, maybe it was building something from nothing. These are not random, they are echoes of your purpose. Because our why is not about what we do or even how we do it. It's about who we are when we are at our best, when we are fully present, fully engaged, and most ourselves. The challenge is that most people don't take the time to reflect on their story. They rush through life chasing goals, following paths laid out by others, and measuring their worth by metrics that don't matter. But when you pause and revisit your defining moments, not just the highlights, but the hardships too, you'll find threads of meaning that connect them all. And when those threads come together, they reveal something powerful. They reveal your why, that deeply personal reason that drives everything you do when you're at your best. This is not about being perfect. It's about being honest, owning your story. Every messy, beautiful, confusing part of it is what leads to clarity. And when you find your why within that story, you stop living reactively. You start living intentionally. You begin to align your choices with your values. You start making decisions not based on fear or pressure, but on purpose. And when you live that way, not only do you feel more fulfilled, but the people around you feel it too. They trust you more, they believe in you more, because you are no longer pretending, you're simply being who you truly are. There's a certain kind of confidence that doesn't come from accolades, titles, or praise. It comes from something far deeper. It's the kind of confidence that isn't loud or boastful. It's steady, quiet, and unshakable. That kind of confidence doesn't waver when people doubt you, and it doesn't need to prove anything. Because it's not rooted in ego, it's rooted in purpose. When you know your why, you stop trying to impress others. You stop chasing validation. You're no longer concerned with whether your work is popular, trendy, or even understood by everyone. Because you're not doing it for everyone, you're doing it for the people who believe what you believe. You're doing it because it matters to you. And when your motivation is that clear, that personal, that meaningful, you don't need the applause. The work becomes the reward. What makes this kind of confidence different is that it doesn't collapse under pressure. It doesn't depend on outcomes. You may fail, you may get rejected, you may face criticism. But none of that can touch your core, because your confidence isn't about whether people say yes. It's about knowing why you're showing up in the first place. You're anchored in something that no one else can take away from you. And that's liberating. Insecurity thrives in uncertainty. But when your why is clear, uncertainty no longer paralyzes you. It becomes part of the journey. You don't need all the answers. You just need the conviction to keep moving in the direction of what you believe. That clarity becomes your compass, and others feel it. They may not be able to explain it, but they sense it in the way you speak, the way you lead, the way you stand firm even when the ground beneath you is shaking. And here's the beautiful part. This kind of confidence is contagious. When people see someone driven not by ego, but by purpose, it inspires them. It makes them question what drives them. It gives them permission to look within. And slowly they begin to believe that maybe they too can live from that same place of authenticity. That maybe they don't have to pretend anymore. Maybe they just need to remember who they've always been. Trust is not built through words alone. It's not something you can demand, buy, or manufacture. It's earned slowly, consistently, and most importantly, authentically. And the most powerful way to build that trust is to stop talking about what you do and start sharing why you do it. When people understand what drives you, what you believe, what you stand for, what you're willing to sacrifice for, that's when trust begins to take root. People are drawn to authenticity, not perfection. Not polish, but truth. When someone speaks from their why, you can feel it. There's a rawness, a clarity, a conviction that cuts through noise. It doesn't feel like a pitch or a performance. It feels like a conversation you've been waiting to have. And in that space, trust is born. We often think that to lead or inspire, we need to have all the answers, but that's not true. People don't follow leaders because they know everything. They follow them because they believe in what they believe. They connect with the cause. They feel a shared purpose. And that connection doesn't come from the product, the service, or the resume. It comes from the why behind it all. When you lead with why, you're not trying to convince people with logic alone. You're reaching them through meaning, and meaning is what makes people stay. Anyone can imitate what you do. Competitors can copy your strategies, your products, even your branding, but they can't replicate your why. That's uniquely yours, and when people connect with that, you've built something no competition can touch, a relationship based on belief. And here's where it gets even more profound. When you live and lead from your why, you give others permission to do the same. You create an environment where people feel safe to be themselves, to speak their truth, to contribute from a place of meaning. That kind of space doesn't just attract talent, it keeps it, because it's not just about jobs anymore. It's about belonging. People want to be part of something bigger than themselves, something real. When your actions align with your why, you don't need to convince people to trust you, they just will. Because trust isn't requested, it's revealed in the way you show up again and again for what you believe in. Adversity is the great revealer. It strips away the surface and brings us face to face with who we really are. In times of crisis, we don't rise to the level of our ambition. We fall to the level of our foundation. That foundation is our why. When everything around us is uncertain, when the plans fall apart, when the applause stops and the spotlight dims, it's our sense of purpose that keeps us standing. It's our why that keeps us grounded. There's something extraordinary about a person who remains steady when the world is shaking. It's not that they don't feel fear or doubt. They do, but their decisions aren't driven by panic. They're driven by something deeper, a clarity that doesn't change with circumstance, a belief that is stronger than the storm, and that belief doesn't come from a slogan or a motivational quote. It comes from knowing exactly why you're doing what you're doing in the first place. Most people think that purpose is something you use when things are going well, but that's not when it matters most. It's in the failures, the losses, the betrayals. Those are the moments when your why becomes your anchor. Because when the path gets dark and the noise gets loud and you feel like giving up, you don't need another plan. You need a reason to keep going, and that reason isn't found outside of you. It's already within you. Purpose gives pain a context. When you suffer for something you believe in, the suffering doesn't break you. It strengthens you. There's meaning in it. There's dignity in it. You may bend, but you won't break. Because you know this isn't the end. It's part of the process. Every setback is a chapter, not the whole story. And when your why is clear, you realize that this story is worth telling, worth living, no matter how difficult it gets. And what happens when you come through the other side? You're not just stronger, you're clearer, you've been tested, and instead of losing yourself, you found yourself. You didn't just survive, you became more you. And that's what makes your story powerful. Not that it was perfect, but that it was real, that you stayed true. And that's what inspires others. Not your victories, but your refusal to let the struggle define you. Most people are alive, but not truly living. They wake up, go to work, come home, repeat the cycle, and call it a life. But deep down, there's a quiet ache, a sense that something is missing. It's not that they are failing, it's that they are disconnected. They're busy doing without knowing why. The tragedy isn't in being tired, it's in being tired from things that don't fulfill you. Purpose isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It's what makes life feel meaningful instead of mechanical. When you know your why, you stop measuring your life by the number of tasks completed or boxes checked. You start measuring it by how aligned you are with what truly matters to you. Every decision becomes more intentional. You stop saying yes out of obligation. You stop chasing things just because others are chasing them. You don't need to be everything to everyone. You just need to be true to the reason you exist. And that reason, your why, becomes the filter through which you see the world. You begin to choose differently, not easier, not safer, but differently. You choose the path that reflects who you are, not who you're expected to be. You choose relationships that nourish your purpose. You choose work that connects to your beliefs, and you start to notice something powerful. You feel alive again. You feel energy not from caffeine or deadlines, but from alignment, from contribution, from doing something that actually matters. This doesn't mean life becomes effortless. There are still hard days, still doubt, still difficulty, but even those moments change because now the struggle is meaningful. The sacrifice makes sense. You're no longer lost in motion. You're moving with direction. There's a fire inside that doesn't burn out because it's not fueled by pressure, it's fueled by belief. And the people around you feel it. They see someone who isn't just existing, but living with intention, and that kind of presence is rare. That kind of clarity is magnetic. It reminds others that maybe they don't have to settle either. Maybe life isn't about just making it to Friday or waiting for retirement. Maybe life is about contribution, impact, authenticity. When you know your why, you stop living on autopilot, you take the wheel. And suddenly, you're not just going through life, you're creating a life that reflects the best of who you are. When you discover your why, you discover yourself, not the version shaped by expectations, roles, or the need for approval, but the real, authentic you. It's not just a phrase or a mission statement, it's a reflection of your story, your values, and the impact you're here to make. It becomes the lens through which you see the world and the compass that guides your choices. It gives you the courage to be consistent, the strength to stand through adversity, and the clarity to lead with conviction. Your why is not a destination, it's a starting point, a foundation that reveals the kind of life you were meant to live. When you lead with it, you stop drifting and start building. You stop pretending and start becoming, and in doing so, you not only live more fully, you give others permission to do the same, because when you know your why, you don't just change your path. You change lives, including your own.